Hello, and welcome to another episode of SMECO Connects. I'm Sonja Cox, and today we have our guest, Jason Scott, here with us, and I also have my co-host, Tom Dennison. So we're going to be talking about the grid pretty much today, and grid safety, and maybe some other things just in general. Try to explain a little bit about the grid and how it works and how we get power from where it's generated to where it needs to go, and then where you take over as far as security goes. But if you would tell our audience a little bit about yourself and your background, what you do here, what your title is.
Sure. As you mentioned, my name is Jason Scott. I'm the Preparedness and Security Director here at SMECO. I've been here for about 5 years. Today is actually my anniversary, believe it or not. I'm retired from the Maryland State Police, did 23 years with them. And like I said, I've been here for 5 years, and my responsibility here is to provide security for the company and all the employees and the assets that we have.
Okay, thank you.
Sonja, I know this topic, we talk a lot about what keeps us up at night.
Right.
And I think safety is one thing of all of our men and women who are out there doing our work, whether it's good weather, bad weather, or not. But grid security has to be something that I know you care deeply about. And so just kind of, what is it about the grid security and the grid itself that really is the most important thing for you?
Well, first, let's talk about what the grid actually is. So how the power gets from one place to the other, just for our audience's benefit. So you will start at a power plant or a generating station where power can be generated by different fuel types: nuclear, natural gas, coal, those types of fuels. So the power is generated at the generating station, and then it goes from the generating station to the high voltage transmission lines. So the power has to be transmitted from what we call the generator to the load, and the load being our customers, our residential and business customers. So it goes on the 230 or above kilovolt
transmission system. There's the 500 kV
yes.
transmission system, the 230 kV, right. And then kind of the next step down is that 69,000 volts, which
right.
we kind of consider our bread and butter at SMECO.
Right, the distribution system. So it goes from the transmission line into a substation, so you can step down the level of the voltage, so it's safe to go into the home. And then it goes on the distribution wire and goes out to the home. So that's what we talk when we're talking about the grid. That's what we're talking about. So the safety of all that, the transmission lines, the substations, especially, and the distribution system itself. It's all intertwined and important, and we really need to be vigilant in how we protect that system. So, it does keep me up at night as far as worrying about that. So that's one reason I asked Jason to be here, so he could talk a little bit about some of the things that we've put in place to actually help protect, from a physical perspective, help protect the grid.
Sure. I'd just like to touch on some of the recent high-profile cases that the industry's seen over the last 3 years. A lot of us can probably remember when we were affected here in Southern Maryland was the Colonial Pipeline incident back in 2021. That's a case where was a ransomware attack, and we felt that right here in Southern Maryland. So that is a cyber incident. And another one that comes to mind is Moore County, North Carolina in 2022. Mm-hmm. 2 substations were vandalized due to ballistic rounds, and the transformers were shot. And thousands of people lost power in Moore County during that time. One of the most recent ones in 2024 was at American Water. They service 14 states and about 18 military installations. And that's one of the biggest water suppliers in the U.S. Again, another cyber. So the theme here is that, you could either face a physical or cyber attack, mm-hmm. And it's increased over the last several years. So I think it's important to note that. And saying that, to be able to combat these things and be able to mitigate some of these problems or issues or attacks is that we know we do have physical security, robust physical security, whether it be access control, whether it be fencing, whether it be CCTV or surveillance cameras. And then also cybersecurity, which we mentioned, is we do penetration testing, we hold tabletop exercises, we do live training to practice against these type threats and be able to mitigate these. And another important thing that we really do well is training. We train our employees. We again tabletop. We do push this through our media sources here at SMECO to remind people of phishing. We do phishing campaigns. These are all very high level things that we do here to help combat against outsider threat. And then obviously we have incident response plans that we go through annually, if not quarterly, to address these issues.
And something for the viewers to know at home is that Maryland is not isolated. We're part of what's called a PJM grid. There's 13 states. All of us are connected through that transmission and generation portion that Sonja had already talked about. So, Jason, in light of some of these security things that have happened in other states and things, so how does the coordination happen kind of across that PJM grid? Talk a little bit about that and why that's so important.
Sure, absolutely. So one is the most important thing is just communication. Is we at SMECO we're really tapped into local and federal law enforcement. Not only that, we are tapped into the industry itself. So there's groups, federal groups, or just being able to coordinate with our co-counterparts in the industry is very important to be abreast of rising threats and what they're experiencing. So we do share information.
Yes.
I mean, that latest example, there was a case in Baltimore, I believe,
That's
where I think it was federal authorities kind of picked up on the conversations that were happening between two individuals. And then
this was a female, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the other thing, I think, Sonja, I know you've talked about this, is when we try to communicate with our customer members, and if they see something that looks a little amiss, encourage them to call in.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Like, I know it's a cliche, but if you see something, say something. And that goes for our system as well. If people see things, I hope they do call.
Well, and I think from SMECO's perspective, we have staff who monitor our grid remotely, from our operations center, where all of the we have our eyes and ears out there through surveillance cameras, and we know before anyone else if somebody goes into a gate, for instance. However, we don't know everything. And so I think we're all kind of part of the same plan here to try to protect our assets as best as possible. Fortunately, we have professionals like Jason and his staff to help us do this. But Jason, what is the biggest concern you have right now in terms of threats to SMECO's grid?
So I think cyber is a big one. But Tom, you hit the nail right on the head. Another cliche is that SMECO has over 10,000 miles of line, right, and that is a large area to cover. So we always are going to fight that battle. But I think we do a great job. But it is a lot of area to cover. So to your point, the eyes and ears of our customer base, if they see something, say something, definitely will be able to help us out in this endeavor to protect our assets.
Great.
Yeah, and it's also it's dangerous to the public if they get into one of our substations. They don't know what can hurt them and what can't. So
that's correct.
It's important for people to understand that as well. And I know that you've used the surveillance before, and we've been able to capture a couple of people who weren't supposed to be around.
That's correct.
So that's a good thing.
Yes.
If we could talk a little bit about what we are required to do from a regulatory perspective.
Sure.
I know you head up that program as well.
Yeah, so we're our control centers here at SMECO. We have two of them are considered a SIP medium. What comes with that is, some regulatory requirements.
Can you explain to our viewers what SIP stands
Yeah,
for?
as be critical infrastructure protection. We are a SIP medium, so what you have a low, medium, and high. We're considered a medium here at SMECO. So what that means is that our control centers are under strict guidelines. So we have about 100 employees that have access to this control center. But what comes that is background checks, extended background checks, training annually. And they were required to complete several modules and in-person training to be able to maintain this access.
Yeah, and I think that goes towards that coordination that we talked about, and how SMECO, we're right here in Southern Maryland. However, we're regulated the same way as larger utilities are. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to how safety and how security is regulated at the federal level through NERC and FERC, the Nuclear Energy Regulatory Commission, and Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, I think that's something for the viewers to know, that we're small in terms of a Southern Maryland electric cooperative. However, when it comes to the regulatory environment that we're in, we're just like everyone else.
Right. And we also have to report to the Public Service Commission about any cyber incidents as well. So now they're kind of getting into the business as well as the federal government. So we do have a lot of requirements and reporting that we have to do. And actually, NERC is North American Electric Reliability Corporation.
And do you mind just slapping me on the wrist real quick? That would be great, because I clearly didn't know what the acronym is.
The NRC is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
Well, very good. I appreciate that. I won't sleep tonight because of that, but I'm great. I'm now fully educated. But I don't know, from just wrapping up, from my standpoint, Sonja, is that I know when I started working here at SMECO, that was almost 20 years ago. And some of the things that we have done just in that 20-year period, of the progress we've made, and where our operations center was back whenever I first started, and to what we have today, I think speaks to our focus on security, safety, right, and having the best technology available, and certainly having somebody like Jason on staff really really epitomizes that. So Jason, where do you see us going in the next couple of years?
With technology, with analytics and surveillance cameras, we're actually doing a pilot program now to use AI within our camera system, and it would be a huge and a big advancement for us. We have really good equipment now, but just staying ahead of the curve and trying to keep up with industry standards, and just being able to protect our assets the best we can. So we're doing a pilot program with analytics in some of our camera systems, so we can
improve.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
I told you we don't have to give away secrets, so.
Right.
And we don't want to. But hopefully, when the new communications backbone gets updated, that'll help even more.
Absolutely.
Because we'll have more bandwidth.
100%.
Good. That was a good question. So speaking of your bringing Jason on, like he said, he's only today is his 5-year anniversary. I signed your anniversary card yesterday.
Okay, nice.
So I remember. So we didn't, to your point, we didn't have this position until 5 years ago. And to be able to hire somebody with the law enforcement background that Jason has, and he's just kind of hit the ground running and really put together a really good program. And why don't we talk a little bit about the impact on the community if we were to lose the grid? What do you guys think?
Scary. I don't know how else to describe it. And I think we've all seen some of the news reports that have been out in terms of the, how we could essentially just be brought down to our knees when it comes to anything. We're so reliant on electricity for every part of our lives. Mm-hmm. I mean, in Southern Maryland, especially, our heating, our cooling, our, every device we have is so dependent on electricity. And I think it's incumbent upon those of us in the utility industry to protect those assets as best we can. And so I don't know how else we could protect things as we do, and that's why Jason's here. So Jason, just when you think about this, how important is the grid to us on a daily basis, and what do you think about when it comes to this?
Tom, you're saying all the very things that I'm thinking is that we lose power here in Southern Maryland, and people just don't. Maybe they do, but something as simple as financial loss, ATMs.
Right.
People think they can go to the ATM and retrieve money. That's down. Gas stations pump fuel from the ground. The electricity is down. Right. Sewage plants. Now you face a sanitation issue.
Right.
Traffic chaos. Could you imagine being in Lexington Park or Waldorf and no street lights are working, or it's a total gridlock.
Right.
These are just some of the very basic things that we face in our community if we really lose the grid.
And people don't think about that,
Right.
But like you said, everything takes electricity. And I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, if actually there was a gas station that was out of power, and I was like, well, I guess I can't go there to get gas.
Right.
Because I don't have, I don't have cash. I need my credit card.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
and it goes as far as the hospitals. people on life-saving devices,
Right.
Electricity, the backup generators are only going to last so long, right?
Right.
But if you can't get fuel, those devices no longer work. So.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's very. I think you've seen a lot of efforts by governments and things to try to have backup systems,
Sure.
and I know that even the technology has gotten better for some of these like battery devices that you can put in your home just to keep certain things running. But overall, I have a friend in North Carolina who lives in the Pinehurst area and was impacted by the gentleman who shot the transformers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe they've ever caught that guy.
They have not.
And so it gives you reason to pause
Mm-hmm.
when something like that happens. And they were out of power for a long period of time.
Right.
And so,
Well, Tom, I believe in that case, when they were out for several days, they actually had an individual that I was on home care, and they had a life-saving device, so they no longer had power, and they unfortunately passed away. So those are things that people may or may not realize if we don't have power.
Well, and another thing too, if the lead time for a substation transformer now is like 70 months, and we don't have those just sitting around. So that could be an issue as well.
Hassan, you bring up a great point. A lot of bad actors on the internet, the dark web. We see in our communications that we talked about earlier, sharing information. These bad actors know that, right?
Yeah.
So they know that our lead times are very long. They know that our things are coming from overseas, things of that nature. So they are well aware of if we're ever as far as sabotage goes,
Right.
we have a while before we can maybe replace a transformer.
Right. Yep. Those are scary thoughts.
yeah.
It is.
And that's why I think we're regulated like we are, and we have to do all the reporting to try to show that we're, up to speed on all the threats, and we can do the best we can.
Right. And I think we do a great job of keeping up with things and trying to stay ahead of it.
I think we do.
Well, thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.